Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L, and now it's time for the pairs and the spotlight. It's Pair Spotlight, the video series where I tell you about a couple of fictional characters from a fictional series and how people are putting these characters into fictional relationships, otherwise known as shipping. Works for them. We'll shine a spotlight on why it's happening and how people are making the two characters work for whatever agenda they may have. This time specifically, we are looking at My Hero Academia, and within My Hero Academia, we are looking at two very lovable characters. Honestly, it's a really wholesome ship. I'm not gonna lie. It gets to my heartstrings, man. It is All Might and Izuku's mother, Inko Midoriya, or Inko Midoriya. I will just call her Izu Mom, or Izuku's mom. In this video, we're going to talk about the critical moments going into building this ship, and we're also going to talk about the dynamics that have come out of this ship. Just as a very quick overview, in terms of how shippers are making these two characters interact, whether it be in their fan art or in the fan fiction, it's honestly really cute, really adorable, and it's kind of interesting. Like, because these two characters do not appear on screen together for the majority of the time, you have the fan authors and the fan artists all going in there and making these inferences for how these two would work and what would like their emotional center be, what kind of problems would they end up kind of revolving around. It was honestly really interesting glancing through some of the fan fiction. But enough of that, let's just get into it. First, let's go over basics. Inko Midoriya is Izuku's mom, who cries a lot for her child. She wants her kid to be safe, and her concern for him was so deep that the stress from it affected her figure to the point that the author feels bad about it. Initially, she respects All Might, but she is concerned about Izuku's well-being. All Might is Izuku's mentor. He is the guy that changed his life. He is the guy that Izuku wanted to emulate. All Might over time sees how Izuku is growing and changing and wants to be there along with him every step of the way. Critical moments that build the foundation for this ship are the time All Might visited the Midoriyas. This was around chapter 96-97, midway through season 3. Every time Inko cares for Izuku, and every time All Might cares for Izuku. One thing you'll come to realize though is that all three of these moments have a factor in common, that being the Izuku factor. Oh, and another thing to keep in mind is that this ship was around before chapter 96, in part due to those last two sets of moments. So let's look at them one by one. First, why does the home visit matter? What does it contribute? This was the first time they met, and even more importantly, the first time they appeared in the same scene or panel together. And we know with shipping, if two characters appear in the same scene, it is more likely that someone is going to ship it. This situation was a very intense emotional situation. Tears were shed, pains were shared, and smiles ultimately had. And wherever there's emotion, it gets easier to look at things through emotional lens. Next, you had both parties being reduced to their knees. The significance here being that All Might reduced his social standing, and Inko then came down to meet him at eye level as some form of equals, removing the status barrier of a hero and a civilian, replacing it more with people who care about Izuku. Also, you had Inko requesting that All Might continue to live. You had Inko essentially allowing All Might to continue raising her son, the light of her life. And you had Inko making All Might make a promise to her. All these added up to being heavy emotional investments for both parties, establishing an emotional connection between the two. Exclusively on All Might's side, you had him saying that Izuku's mother reminds him of his master Nana, and while he said that it was probably just hairstyle, this added another positive association between the two, and we know how much All Might cared about Nana. Adding a romantic context to this tie between him and Izu Mom wasn't too hard. Spoiler alert though, this aspect didn't really factor into the ship that often from what I saw. Instead, it seems to have given way to one or two separate theories. Now, the other two sets of moments will segue us to a dynamic that was more prevalent. The moments that Inko cares for Izuku and the moments that All Might cares for Izuku. The reason these were important were because they established a common interest that both parties were heavily invested in, Izuku. It was interesting to see how Izuku sort of becomes a proxy for these two, where if I was to explain it simply, it's like because All Might interacts well with Izuku, that ends up being a positive interaction with Inko. The reason these became more important was because interaction between the two parties is so scarce, shippers had to draw inspiration from something else. So moving away from the moments that make the foundations and moving into the shipper logic, specifically with the Izuku factor, one of the cruxes here is ultimately the idea All Might is a good father figure for Izuku. And then you ask, well, how does that manifest in the ship? That idea is why the Izuku interactions are important, because once you start saying that All Might is a good father for Izuku, the next logical step is flat out, oh man, All Dad and Izu Mom should get married, and can you blame them? The idea would be Izuku's family could be complete if they put Izuku's mom and All Might together, and it was a really interesting little dynamic to see there. But from there were a lot of interesting little theories that were coming out where people were talking about, hey, maybe All Might and Inko actually had a secret love child who was Izuku, and that was one of the more out there theories, but it did sneak in here and there. It was a very interesting little thing, but again, this is one that was based on the foundation of both of these people caring deeply about Izuku. At this stage, you can see you don't necessarily need the chapter 96 material to make this part of the ship work. Most fans agree All Might is a good father figure for Izuku. That said, if you had to substantiate it with something from the manga, chapter 96 and 97 became useful because you could just use the fact that Inko entrusted All Might to raise her son and just drum up the emotional significance for it. And again, it's just funny how much Izuku factors into all of this. Another dynamic that popped up into this ship is my personal favorite, and shout out to every shipper that jumped in on it. But you know that bit with All Might being asked to keep himself safe and all that? One cool thing to see pop out from the shipping of these two characters was a dynamic where Inko is worrying about All Might and also kind of nursing him to health or taking care of him in his now skeletal form. That was so sweet, and you could see why it happened. Inko worries about Izuku, you take that worry and direct it at All Might, and you add in the context of Inko wanting All Might to live, and right there you have the most awe-worthy fan art and fan material ever. Now, one thing that was also very interesting in the shipping here was that to make this work, there had to be a certain degree of villainization of Izuku's biological father, which honestly I think is a little bit unfair, and it kind of makes it one of the more volatile aspects of this ship, because in order to have Inko and All Might together and have All Might be a father figure, you kind of have to address the elephant in the room that is the missing father. And honestly, I'm not too fond of the villainization of the father, even though he may be a villain, but I think that's a topic that I'll leave for another day. It was still very interesting to see that occurring here. When it comes to the All Might and Inko ship, ultimately, this is a really interesting ship in that a lot of what it runs on doesn't require reading into limited scenes, but rather it runs on making inferences based on how both parties interact with a mutual interest and how they could potentially bond over that mutual interest. And I don't really think this is an offensive ship, in large part due to Izuku. I feel that if you were to go to someone to ask them about this ship and then add in, think how happy Izuku would be, I think you could sway a lot of people onto it because there's a third party who would potentially benefit from it, and that's not something that a lot of the other ships boast. And I keep finding it funny. Now, my only question really would be, would Izuku be happy if All Dad and Mom got together? Who knows? Overall though, because they don't show up together that often, we just don't have that much material to be able to talk about. And unfortunately, now that Izuku has moved into the dorms, there's going to be even less opportunities for Inko to come in and make herself heard. Now, we do know that Izuku's father is going to be showing up in the storyline at some point in the future, so that tells us that we could probably see some more familial drama, or maybe a lack of familial drama in the future. Maybe All Might will be involved at that point, but until then, this ship is just going to continue chugging along, because I don't think there's going to be anything that's going to stop All Might from wanting to keep Izuku safe and wanting to make sure he grows up into a fine hero. And as long as he continues to do that, undoubtedly Inko is going to be just fine with that. But you guys, let me know what you think of this ship. Do you think it's cool? Do you like it? It's definitely a wholesome ship. Like, the darkest aspect of this thing is that they have to make Izuku's father slightly villainous or slightly responsible, which may not be fair at this given moment in time. Let me know what you think down below though, and until next time. Oh, also, suggest any ship. I will be looking at the comments if you want to see it covered. But yeah, till next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day.